Hello there, welcome back. What's this? Today I'm here with something very exciting to me, which is a reading vlog where I read YA books with Sapphic main pairings. By the way, for full transparency, I am filming this intro after I have already filmed the entire vlog. I just kept postponing filming the intro over and over again, and I realized that it was already the end of the month of June and the entire vlog was done. So yeah, so at the time of vlogging this, it was Pride Month, and so I just wanted to, one, read books that were on my physical TBR, and two, just read a bunch of Sapphic books to kind of celebrate and get in the mood for Pride Month. The books I picked were We Set the Dark on Fire by Crier. This takes place in Medio, which is a country where every rich man has two wives, and these wives are trained from childhood to become his wives. And this is a sort of pedigree because you are ingrained into this top society. I forgot words today, oh my god. But Dani's pedigree is a lie. She is not from there. She is an immigrant, an undocumented immigrant. Well, she's not undocumented, but her documents are false. At the start of the book, she and another girl from the school are graduating, and the two of them get married to the same guy, and it basically follows them. The next book I read was Summer of Salt by Katrina Leno. This takes place on a fictional island town called By the Sea, and it's a very close community of people that live there. And among those people, there is this family of witches, of all female witches. This is a very old family in the island, and there's this magical thing entwined with the real world, and a very rare bird that goes to this island once a year, every single year at the same time. And because this bird is very rare, it attracts a bunch of, experts and people who study birds and people whose hobby is bird watching to this island in the season that the bird shows up. I said the word bird way too many times. And we follow Georgina, who is one of a set of twins, and she is a part of the aforementioned family of witches, except that she hasn't discovered about her special abilities yet. The story takes place in the season of the bird, and the bird is taking a lot longer to show up, which is suspicious. There is a romance involving Georgina and a girl who goes to the island to chaperone her brother who studies the bird. That's a mouthful. And in the year the story takes place, something unthinkable happens that shakes the entire community. And lastly, Crier's War by Nina Varela. After the War of Kinds, where automae, who are basically like robots, won over the humans, automae became the ruling class of society and bent human beings to their will. So humans are all servants or enslaved or just living in very underprivileged conditions, I guess you could say. Isla, a human servant whose entire family was murdered by automae, seeking vengeance, revenge. And the way she's gonna go about that is killing the daughter of the man responsible of the automae, responsible for the murder of her family. The man is the sovereign of the land, and his daughter is Lady Crier. Lady Crier, who was made to be beautiful and flawless, and who apparently has a lot more feelings than she thought she did. So yeah, those are the three books that I'm gonna read in this vlog, all Sapphic books, obviously, and I hope you enjoy watching this. Hi, so I just finished chapter 14 of We Set the Dark on Fire by Telo K. Mejia. It's a bit hard to make myself be understood when I pronounce R's, like in Telo. Telo? I don't pronounce the R. Anyway, you get what I'm saying, right? Okay, so yeah, I am on page 216 and I'm digging it so far. It's been a fun ride. There's been some unexpected commentary there that I really appreciated, and I quite like the main characters. So I think right now one of my favorite parts about this book is the world building and, the religion, the myths that kind of made this world be the way that it is. Or not even make it what it is, but like it influenced and it informed, and it's used to excuse the way the politics work in this world. So let me try to explain this a bit better. I'm in my computer chair and I just can't stand still. when I'm in it. So you're gonna have to deal with me moving around. I think it's easier to explain the plot of this book if I explain the world first and the myth behind the world. So literally the first 4 pages of the book are the myth behind the whole thing. And that myth was actually super interesting to me, and it sounded like an amazing story that I really wish I could read a book about. But basically the myth is there were 2 brother gods, the sun god and the sea god, and they both ruled over and cared for Medio, which is the country. Medio is an island. The sun god kind of took care of the inner island, and the sea god took care of the outer island. The sun god was there warming the soil, making sure plants grew, giving people a nice tan, and the sea god controlled the sea. You know, he made the waves calmer and he made the waters be filled with fish, and for a long time the 2 of them ruled in peace. But then the sun god fell in love with the mortal queen of the island. Her name was Constantia, and he got married to her. Like, he made himself become a human and like have a human form, and then he married her. After a while though, the moon goddess fell in love with the sun god too, but the sea god kind of wanted the moon goddess for himself, because the moon, as we all know, controls the tides and waves and all that. But now, because she was in love with the sun god, she was turning her back to the sea god, which he didn't like. The sea god is basically the nice guy trademark in this whole myth. Like, she doesn't owe you anything, dude. Just get over yourself, please. But anyway, the sun god fell in love with her too. You know, there was a mutual feeling there. But as we remember, he's already married to Constantia, the human queen. When the sun god finally made his decision, the sea god went there to watch it, you know, watch the announcement. And the sun god basically says,
I am actually marrying both of them. We all love one another and we think this is gonna work, so the 3 of us are together now.
And the sea god, of course, threw a temper tantrum, and he said, if I can't marry this woman, I will wreak havoc in this island that you love so much, and I will destroy it. So the 2 of them fought, because apparently that's the only way for men to resolve the problems. And of course the sun god won, and the sea god had to retreat back to the water, you know, and he couldn't reach the actual island anymore. However, when he left, he also left a curse, and the earth, the dirt of the outer island was salted, so it didn't grow anything anymore, and the fishes were washing up on the beach, bloated and dead and disgusting. And so the sun god was very upset with that, and he decided to retreat back to the sun. But before he left, he told his chosen children, you know, the people he watched over, the people of the inner island, to build a wall to keep out the curse of the sea god, and consequently keep out the people who were being affected by this curse. And he also left his people with an order, I guess, that every man of his people would marry 2 wives, a primera and a segunda. The primera would take after his human queen wife, was basically the more rational one, and the one that was kind of his partner in crime, you know, and the one that was involved with the politics and all of that. And the segundas would take after his second wife, the moon goddess, so more nurturing, more emotional. That was a long-ass tangent, but basically this myth is the entire foundation of the society. You know, there's a school called Medio School for Girls, where girls basically train from a young age to become either primeras or segundas, and then they only leave the school when they get married to a rich guy. And Medio, the island, is still divided between inner and outer island, and there is an actual wall separating the 2 of them. I'm gonna read you the synopsis real quick. It says, Daniela Vargas is a top student at the Medio School for Girls, where young women are trained to be perfect wives to distinguished men, but her pedigree is a lie. She must keep the truth hidden or be sent back to the fringes of society. But when a resistance group learns where she comes from and asks her to become one of their spies, Dani must decide: will she give up everything she strived for in pursuit of a free Medio and a chance at a forbidden love? Dani was born on the wrong side of the wall. She was born on the outer island, but when she was very, very little, I think she was around 4 maybe, her parents crossed the wall with her illegally, and they had to pay for forged documents that said they came from this tiny city on the right side of the wall. It's still a poor city, but it's on the inner island, which is a lot better already than the outer island. Being poor in the inner island was preferable to being poor in the outer island. And the closer you live to the wall in the inner island, the poorer and more marginalized you are. And on the very center of it, there is a mountain, and that's where the capital and all the rich neighborhoods are. And the higher up you live in the mountain, the farther you are from the sea, and the richer you are, and the more powerful you are. So already I see this parallel to Latin America or the global south in general being the outer walls, and the US or the global north in general being the inner city. I said outer walls, didn't I? I mean outer island and inner island. And the book talks about all the hardships that come with being an immigrant, but it also talks about the privilege of being an immigrant in the sense of having privilege over the people in the global south. As I said before, it is preferable to be poor in the inner island than to be poor on the outer island. Like being an immigrant, being in the diaspora comes with its own set of hardships and challenges and complications, but it's also preferable than living in your own country, you know. I don't know if I'm being able to explain this properly. I hope so. But also the way that this whole thing is controlled, that media is controlled, is really reminiscent of military dictatorships, the military dictatorships that happened in Latin America during the last century. I said this before, but I live in Brazil and I'm Brazilian. Brazil was in a military dictatorship a short while ago. Like, my democracy is only a little older than me. And we still have scars and we still have consequences from the military dictatorship, even though it's been a while since it ended. You know, our politics and our view of the world is still heavily impacted and influenced by that. But also we learn about it in school, and we learn about it in great detail, you know, even to a traumatizing degree sometimes, because we are shown some photos, and we sometimes, depending on your school, you learn about the actual torture techniques that were used and all that. So it can be very traumatic, but at the same time it's very important that that is taught, because that is the only way many people's history survive, because so many people died during the dictatorship or disappeared during it and were never found. There is no record of where they ended up. No one knows. I mean, we all know that they were taken by the military, but we don't know what actually happened. It's a mess. It's a mess. And it's a very hard legacy to have. And I honestly feel like this book has a good grasp on what normal, ordinary life is under an authoritarian regime, under a military dictatorship specifically. Obviously, it doesn't go like super in depth into it. It's not the goal of the book, but it goes over that in a way that is very digestible and comprehensible to a younger audience who is the target demographic for it. I appreciate the way it was written here. I think that representation, I guess you could say, it shows the control and the suppression of information. It shows the constant looking over your shoulder. It shows the people disappearing out of the blue and no one knowing where they ended up, and no one knows if they were tortured or killed or if they are still living somewhere. It shows the more subtle forms of dissent. You know, they are not overt enough to get you caught, but they are still rebellious in their own way. It shows how the revolutionaries were painted as bad guys and violent and uncivilized. Anyway, I thought it was done in a very good way considering the target demographic of the book. I like the world building so far. The writing is pretty good too. And Dani, I really like her. She can be quite passive at times, but I think her passiveness makes complete sense in this context. She has this very interesting internal conflict and kind of moral dilemma, because she's aware that her parents sacrificed a lot for her to have what she has now. Even though it isn't exactly what she would want for herself, it is still better than what she would have had if it weren't for her parents. And she's aware of the sacrifice. She's aware of how hard it was for them to cross the wall, how hard it was for them to get the fake documents, and how hard it was for them to work non-stop for years in order to get enough money to put her in the media school for girls, where she will be trained to become a primera, a wife of a politician. And she knows that they did all of that for her to end up in this position and have a comfortable life, one that they couldn't have themselves. And that makes her feel kind of indebted to them, like she has to live this life because this is the life they fought so hard for her to live. However, she is also a part of those marginalized people who live in the, closer to the wall. She knows their struggles and she knows how impoverished they are and underprivileged they are. She knows the ugly parts of Medio and the unfair parts of Medio, and she knows how Medio uses this myth and this story of those gods to kind of reinforce the status quo. She even says that they don't seem to believe those gods anymore. They only use those stories to reinforce the political system of the country and all that. And so she is put in this position where she can make her parents proud and make the sacrifice count and live a comfortable life and protect herself and her parents, or she can do the right thing and help people and throw her parents' sacrifice in the trash, basically, and put herself in a very dangerous position too. And this internal conflict is very interesting and I think is done in a very nice way. The love interest, since this is a Sapphic reading vlog, despite it not seeming that way so far, the love interest is a girl who studied with her named Carmen. Carmen used to be kind of a bully towards her, and Dani became the primera to this politician dude, and Carmen became his segunda. So the two of them live together and they have to find a way to live with one another, to coexist harmoniously. No, I don't know that word. To coexist peacefully, basically. Dani hates Carmen, maybe hate is too strong a word, but she strongly dislikes Carmen. But she is also super attracted to her, and anytime Carmen comes near Dani, instant gay panic. She goes into gay panic mode in the snap of a finger. And it's very funny because she doesn't seem to understand that she's attracted to Carmen, and she's like, oh my god, I can barely breathe and she's near me, and she doesn't seem to make the connection there. Relatable is all I'm gonna say. Wow, I spent way too much time talking about this already and I haven't even finished the book, and it's the first book. So I'm gonna go back to reading now and I'll update you when I finish it.
Transition.
Hi, I finished with Set the Dark on Fire. I'm very conflicted about this because I'm not gonna lie, the middle chunk of the book I was feeling very indifferent to it. Also, sorry for all the mess back there. I don't have the spoons to deal with that right now. It wasn't bad, but I wasn't that invested either. I was having fun, but I didn't care that much about what was gonna happen, I didn't really care that much for the characters either. But the ending though, that ending was just so wow, great review, Isabella. Okay, the ending was super fast paced and lots of things were happening and lots of revelations, and it was just overall a very exciting finale because throughout the book I was having fun and all, but I was kind of wondering whether or not I would even bother reading the second book, since I wasn't that connected to this one. The finale changed my mind. I'm definitely reading the second book because I want to know how this whole thing unfolds. I will say that I did see some of the reviews coming, I predicted them, but it didn't bother me too much, What else can I say about this? I did like Carmen. Not as much as I like Dani, to be quite honest, and I found that the shift in the relationship was very abrupt. I would have liked to see more of a progression towards the romance part. I would like to have seen more of the development of it. I am trying very hard not to spoil anything. But yeah, I had a lot to say in the first part, so there's not much left for me to say. This was fun, I didn't really care for a lot of it, the middle chunk of the book, but the ending definitely got me curious and interested to see how the second book is gonna unfold. I did separate a quote that I would like to read to you that just has really nice commentary in my opinion. Some people said this conflict the one they would not officially call a war, had started thousands of years ago during a falling out between two brother gods. But here, today, Danny could see that was just a fanciful story, perpetuated to give people an easy answer. The real answer was harder. Prejudice, privilege, hatred. Maybe the sun and salt gods had walked with mortals all those years ago. Maybe one had betrayed the other, but there was nothing left of that story here today. This was politics. This was humanity, and the refusal to recognize it. The realization felt like another small chip coming off the foundation Danny had always trusted to remain solid beneath her. In the end, I guess I would say that this was a solid 3.5 out of 5. It was a complete side note, but Taylor Gamer here is gorgeous. Like, look at her. Ma'am. I think the next book I'm gonna read is Summer of Salt by Katrina Leno. I think that one is appealing more to me right now out of the two that I have separated for this. So I will come back when I have updates. Dude, I did not expect that. What the fuck? Something just happened in this book that I did not see coming. And I thought the story was going in one particular direction, and like with one fucking line, the whole thing just went, I didn't expect that to happen. Listen, I know. I need to wash my hair. I know that, okay? It's gonna happen. I don't want to hear anything about it. I just finished part 1 of Summer of Salt by Katrina Leno, and I don't even know. Like, one thing happened that I wasn't expecting, and I'm just speechless, in utter shock. And the end of part 1 isn't really the midway point of the book. It's like page 103. I almost didn't get that out, okay. This book follows a family of witches. They don't really call themselves witches. They don't use that word, but like, the witches. And it takes place in this, I'm not gonna keep hurting this, this tiny island called By the Sea. We specifically follow 2 twin sisters of this family of witches. And it's quite interesting because the family is a very matriarchal one. They only ever have daughters, and they keep the mother's last name, not the father's, whoever the father is. And every single one of the women in this family has a particular gift / power. And you have the most random powers, you know, sometimes it's something useful, and it's kind of like the Graces in the Graceling books. Like, sometimes it's something very useful, and sometimes it's just something that, like, you know. One of the twin sisters, Mary, has already found out what her power is. She is able to float. Like, she's not even able to fly, she just floats. And the other, Georgina, hasn't really figured out what her power is. And the mother is able to make any, like, potion that she wants to make. But back to the island, the people there from this very close-knit community. Close-knit or tight-knit? Everyone knows everyone else, and they have their own little traditions and the customs and all that. And one of the peculiar things about By the Sea is this bird that goes there every year. And it's a very specific and very rare bird that doesn't really show up anywhere else in the world. So it has attracted a lot of attention worldwide, and people who specify studying birds go to By the Sea every year at the time that the bird shows up. These people are called by the locals bird heads. And then one year, which is the year the book takes place in, everything changes. And I'm keeping it cryptic because otherwise it's just spoilers. This bird shows up once every year at the same time of the year, and with it come the tourists, who are mostly the aforementioned bird heads. And those tourists and bird heads are what basically keeps the town businesses afloat, especially the business of the family of witches, which is an inn. But the most curious and peculiar thing about this bird is what the people of the island believe of it, which is that it is a person who transformed into a bird 300 years ago. And that person was, of course, part of the family of witches. This was a woman of another set of twins that was born like 300 years ago, as I said before. and her name was Annabella, which is what they call the bird. So with that out of the way, what am I thinking of the book? I am really loving it. I adore the family, first of all, and the family dynamics within it, and especially the sisters' relationships, you know, the twin sisters. I love them with all my heart, and I adore the mum. Okay, I love her so fucking much. She is the best character so far. I also really like the writing of the book. I mean, the opening line alone got me hooked. It's just so beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna have to read it to you. On the island of by the sea, you could always mail two things: salt and magic. Bitch. Like, that's a very powerful opening line in my opinion. And the cover, like, look at this cover. The Sapphic pairing in this book is between Georgina, the main character, and this girl named Prudence. And Prudence is a tourist in the island. She went there to accompany her brother, who is one of the bird heads. And she is queer, but she doesn't use any labels specifically in this book. It seems like she's still kind of figuring out her own sexuality, but she does like more than one gender, so she's queer. And like, the romance isn't the main focus in this book. It doesn't get like most of the, how do I say this in a book way, the screen time. It doesn't get most of the page time, let's just say it like that. But it's still there, and it's still a very relevant part of the book and a very prominent part of the book. It's very, very cute, and I really like that the teenagers in this book really sound like teenagers, you know, in the way they talk, but also in the way they behave and react to certain things. And I really love how so far the focus of the story is really on the family and on the sister relationship and on the family dynamics and all that. And I really like all the characters, especially the family. And it's just, I'm really liking this. It's got very similar vibes to The Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater. I read that book last year in November for my Reading Books by Scorpio Authors vlog. I'm gonna link it down below. That's not down below, that's up above. I'm gonna link it up above and down below. Clearly my brain is rotten. But yeah, it's got very similar vibes. Well, with the small island and this very close community, very few people who live in the island, and also this magic animal who shows up every year at a specific time, and how that is kind of like an event for the townspeople and how that attracts tourists and all that. And it's also got similar vibes in the sense that it's very whimsical while still being set in the real world, and the writing is quite pretty without being like overwhelming, you know, and hard to understand. If you like that book, you're definitely gonna like this one too. And if you like this one, then I think you will like The Scorpio Races too, because it's so fucking good. As for the plot, after that surprising thing happened, I think I know where this is going. Yeah, I think I know where the plot is going and what the themes are gonna be, you know, the things that are gonna be touched upon in this book. Now, Georgina's mysterious power, I think I know what it is. And if I'm right, then the foreshadowing is quite heavy-handed. I'm very curious, and if it is what I think it is, then it's very intriguing. And it comes with some heavy/dark implications. I'm not gonna say anything on what I think it is, just because I don't want to spoil anything for anyone if it turns out to be that. I am just a master date, oh my god. If I'm right about all those things, again, I think the foreshadowing is quite heavy-handed. But let's see if I'm right and if that impacts my feelings on the book. Yeah. That's why I have for now.
Transition.
I finished reading Summer of Salt by Katrina Leno. I did see most things coming. I was right about most of my predictions in regards to the theme of the book and certain events that will happen by the end of it. Because the foreshadowing in this was quite heavy-handed. Like, it's understandable when you read a book and the twists make sense and you're like, oh, okay, I kind of saw it coming, because the foreshadowing was good. But then there's also just heavy-handed foreshadowing that makes the whole thing very obvious from the beginning. I keep pushing the book out of frame, okay. But I'm gonna be very honest with you that didn't really impact my enjoyment of the book a whole lot because the things made sense and the way they were written, it was good. You know, they were well written, they were written with respect. I just really appreciated it. I still really liked the journey, you know, and I liked the writing and the characters, especially Georgina and Mary's mom. She can step on me. Not only she can step on me, I want her to step on me. And we also meet Georgina's friends, which is something I didn't mention in the first part of talking about this book. And they are very good characters too, you know, they're very well written and all of them have distinct personalities and all that. And I especially liked Georgina's best friend, who's also a romantic and asexual, which we love to see. I love the main couple, Georgina and Prudence. They were adorable. They were so endearing. It was just a very cute development of the romance, you know. It was, I don't know how to explain this. There. It was like one of those crushes that you have while being a teenager. I don't really know how to explain this properly, but it felt very true to what I remember from having crushes when I was a teen, you know. They were cute. That's it. They were cute, they were endearing, they were adorable, whatever all the synonyms you can think of, that's what they were. And the ending of the book was surprisingly very hopeful, considering the themes that it decides to tackle in the second half. I did not expect that, but I really, really appreciated it. I think lots of times with this kind of theme, it's very easy and it's very common for it to just be very hopeless and very, I don't know, just yeah, hopeless, I guess is the best word, which is completely understandable, of course, you know, because it's a very heavy theme and it's a very heavy thing that happens in real life. But I just really appreciated how hopeful the ending was, and you know, this message that there's still life after that, there's still possibilities of happiness after that. In the end, I just really liked this, like, a lot. I said like 1,000 times. But yeah, I just really enjoyed this book. It was very good. The fact that I could see most things coming and I could predict some of the things that were gonna happen didn't really impact my enjoyment of it a whole lot. And I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I highly recommend it. It's a great book and it's very slim too, so that's a bonus. And I especially recommend this to you if you like The Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater, because the two of them have very similar vibes. Now on to the last book for this vlog. Right off the bat, I have a couple of things to say. First of all, the book starts with this concise timeline of the history of the world where it takes place, and I really appreciate that because I'm a dumb bitch, and a lot of times with fantasy and sci-fi you spend like the first 100 pages of the book kind of trying to figure out what the fuck is going on and how things work, which I also really like, but a lot of the times I actually feel the need to go back to the beginning of the book and reread those first 100 pages just so I can read them while 100% understanding what the fuck is going on, you know. Now, is it cheap to do that instead of weaving the whole thing into the story? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not a literary critic, but what I can say is that I personally really appreciated it. But also so far, I'm still not halfway through, but so far it is still being weaved into the story. Like that timeline is just so you can understand things more in the first few pages before it is incorporated into the story. I don't know if that makes sense. I hope it did. But here, look at this. Like, this is the first thing after the map of the world. It's like literally a timeline of the history of this world. Second of all, I thought this was sci-fi because of the automate, which are kind of like robots, I think. But so far it feels more like a fantasy. Oh well, my eyebrows are a mess. Jesus fucking Christ, I am so sorry. That's not a negative, by the way. That it feels more like a fantasy than a science fiction novel. It's just more of an observation and a surprise, I guess. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it so far though, so gonna see you in a few to talk about the first half of the book, I guess. I need to wash my hair. I know that, okay? You can probably tell because it's still wet. And if I don't blow dry it soon, it would just be so fucking freezy. Anyway, I'm halfway through On Crier's Wall by Nina Varela. I'm really loving this and I just... I Anyway, I'm gonna just put this down because my wrist is acting up right now. So this book takes place in a world with autome, I think is how you say it, which are basically robots, but they are powered by this gem, which I think is something made out of alchemy. And years ago, something called the War of Kinds happened, which was basically the autome rising up against the humans, and they won. Of course they did. This type of media product, be books or comics or movies, it just always gets me extremely anxious because, I don't know, maybe I'm a dumb bitch, but I'm scared shitless of robots and of human beings just going too far in developing them and them eventually rising against us, which is stupid. I know it's stupid, okay, but I can't help it. I'm scared of it. But anyway, they won the War of Kinds, and now they are in power. They rule over the humans, and humans are enslaved. The two main characters are Ayla, or Isla. I've been saying Isla in my head, I just noticed, who is a human girl whose family was murdered years and years ago by autome. And the other one is Crier, who is an autome. But not only that, she is the daughter of the sovereign of that particular country, kingdom, territory, you know. I'm just gonna read the back because I feel like I'm not able to explain this properly. Ayla, a human servant rising in the ranks at the sovereign's house, dreams of avenging the death of her family by killing the sovereign's daughter, Lady Crier. Crier, who was made to be beautiful, flawless, and to succeed her father. Crier had been preparing to do just that before she was betrothed to Sapphic. Don't know if I'm saying that right. Before she discovered her father isn't as benevolent as she thought before she met Ayla. So that's what it's about. Ayla is a servant at the sovereign's house / castle, whatever you want to call it. And she is rising in the ranks, and something happens that makes her Crier's handmaiden, and it's basically about that. And Ayla wants to kill Crier. I love enemies to lovers in general, but there's something about when one or both of the characters want to kill the other at the start before falling in love with them, and then you follow along as the feelings evolve. There's something about that just tickles my fancy. I hate that term. I really do. It sounds just... I love both main characters, especially Crier. Isla just gets on my nerves sometimes, not gonna lie. I am a sucker for that trope where a robot character slowly figures out emotions and feelings and relationships. You know, just how human they actually are. I am a sucker for that. But I also have a soft spot for angry female characters, so I do still like Isla for that reason. I love the makeup already. I am adoring the way the relationship is slowly evolving and the yearning. Remember before when I was wondering whether this was sci-fi or fantasy, it turns out that it's more of a mix of both. You know, it's a sci fantasy as we call it, and I love that. I am 100% here for it. I actually find that most of the sci-fi stuff that I enjoy is actually sci-fantasy, so... And this book is just so fucking good so far. It's amazing. I love the characters, I love the world, I love the relationships, I love the spying, the court intrigue. I adore Crier, as I said before, and I also really like Isla's history, you know, her background, and all of the supporting cast for her. All of the side characters that interact with Isla is what I mean. And yes, I just realized that I am switching between Isla and Ayla as I'm talking, but just know it's the same character. But yeah, I don't really have much to say other than that, because I find it harder to talk about books that I love as opposed to other books, you know. And I, for some reason, don't feel the need to over-explain this one for you. Just know it's very fucking good. I am loving it. I'm loving it.
Transition.
You know, I was starting to think that this was going to be my first vlog where I didn't have any 5-star reads. But I'm happy to report that's not the case anymore. That's right, I gave Crier's Wall by Nina Varela 5 out of 5 stars. Yeah, so much happened since I last updated you in this book, and I don't know how much I can say. I don't know how much I should say. It's gonna be very hard to talk about this without spoiling things, but I'm gonna try my best, I swear. So last time I already explained to you the world and what the story is about and the main characters and all that. And I guess this latter part of the book just served to solidify what I told you before about the characters and about the ship too. I adored this main couple. The way the romance developed in this book was just so fucking good. The angst, the yearning, top notch. It was just top notch. Fuck, what is this? I'm so sorry if this divine light is distracting, but I gotta work with what I have. I really loved the way the story unfolded. Even though I could predict certain things that ended up happening, I did not predict all of them, and a few of them actually caught me by surprise. And the ones that I did predict, I thought that the foreshadowing was actually quite good, and it wasn't, you know, heavy-handed the way it was in Summer of Salt. I found the world building to be pretty solid, and I quite liked Nina Varella's writing style. And again, Crier is just such a fucking interesting character. I love her so much. As I said before, she follows that trope of, you know, the inhumane character learning how human it actually is. It can be with robots or monsters or aliens, you know, any of those work, but in this particular instance, she is an automate. No, she is an automa. Automate, I think, is the plural. Anyway, I feel like this vlog has had an overabundance of these moments, but I just stop and go, anyway. And it's quite interesting to follow Crier as she starts feeling things for people and about herself and about her father, and she starts realizing and naming these feelings and relationships and actions that happen around her and trying to make sense of them. And it's so fascinating and it's so good. I love the way Nina Varela dealt with all that, and seeing her trying to understand what she actually is, you know, if she is an automat or if there's something wrong with her or stuff like that. It was just so good, so good. I don't think there's much more I can say without spoiling things, which is a shame because I feel like I haven't been able to convey my feelings for this book specifically and for how good it actually is. Again, I'm working with what I got. One thing is for sure though, which is that I am definitely gonna pick up the sequel and I can't fucking wait to see the ending of the story. I got very hyper in this last section. Okay. Oh, I remember one thing that I have to say. I just really like that even though the romance is building and building throughout the book and it's always developing, in this book specifically it doesn't get to the point where they are madly in love with each other and they would do absolutely everything for the other, and it's just this thing that happened way too fast and you don't understand why it happened. You know, it really steers away from that type of couple, which I really appreciated. I really liked. I love that it's still a thing that is in constant development and you can actually see the progress of it, but it doesn't get to a point where it's unrealistic how much in love these two characters are. 5 out of 5 stars. A quick wrap up so I can finish the video. First I read We Set the Dark on Fire by Telo K. Mejia, and I gave this a 3.5 out of 5 stars. It was fun, I enjoyed the book, but there was just something missing for me in that I can't quite name, but I hope you understood from the vlog footage. Then I read Summer of Salt by Katrina Leno, and this I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I really liked it. It's quite whimsical and has a touch of magical realism in it, or should I say fabulism. There's this discussion that I haven't quite gotten to the bottom of yet. So it's magical, it's whimsical, I really liked it. I liked the characters, I liked the relationships. The whole setting was quite atmospheric and very nice too. Lastly, the book I just talked about in this portion of the video, Crier's War by Nina Varela. Wow, I got really tongue-tied there. Crier's War by Nina Varela. There we go. Okay. Again, 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. It's got a ton of tropes that I really adore. So in the end, it's just one of those books that is 100% my cup of tea. I'm not sure it's gonna be for everybody. You know, I can't assure that you're gonna like as much as I did, but then again, I can't do that for any books, and I don't think any book is everyone's cup of tea, so. But yeah, I really loved it. The characters were very complex and they were always evolving and developing in quite interesting ways. The world building and the writing were quite good as well, and I just adored Crier, and I really fucking like the main couple. I am shipping them so fucking hard, and I just can't wait to see what's gonna happen in the second book. I am so curious. So yeah, that's it for today. Thank you so much for following me along in this journey. I really appreciate it, and I hope you had a good time. Tell me what you thought of the vlog down below. And if you read any of these books, what did you think of them? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? I would love to know. And if you haven't read them yet, then are you interested in picking them up now? Do they sound like books that you would enjoy? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like, comment, or subscribe if you feel like it. I would really appreciate it. And as always, I'll see you around.